Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, episode 151. Our guest this week is a streamer and YouTuber playing every graphical PC English adventure game. It's called Adventures in Gaming. Our guest is Taco of the Taco Adventure. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, the Taco Adventure is your Twitch and your YouTube channel, and it's, as I said, you're playing every single adventure game you come across that is on PC, and that can mean like Commodore 64 or actual computer or whatever. And you have a database. It's a project meant to collect and discover and classify every single one of these. You have over 5,000 entries on that right now.
Yeah, so the list keeps growing. I mean, I've got there's over 5,300 games in there, and there's no sign of it stopping anytime soon. So, yeah, it's called the Adventure Game. It's called AdventureGameDB.com. That's the site. Basically, I when I started streaming, I created a system to classify all my games, and I decided that I would move it away from my streamer identity and try and make it a database that anybody could use to find these games and play them and have fun. So I kind of created its own. I kind of created its own little identity, kind of separate from me and my streamer identity, so that people had a place to go to find these games that I consider extremely fun and rewarding to play.
And your original goal in 2019 was to get up to 1,000 titles, which you've obviously gone way past. Did you ever think, like, I am in over my head here?
Well, I mean, I've kind of come to the conclusion that I'm not gonna beat all the adventure games that have ever been made or will be made. But you know, it's gonna be a fun journey, and I mean, I can't say that I'm unhappy about new games coming out. So I'm happy that new games are coming out, and I'm happy we have new stuff to play, and you know, I think I've told people that the only way that I'm ever going to meet my goal is if they stop making adventure games, and I don't want that to happen. So,
right. Currently,
I've kind of accepted the truth. It's not going to happen.
You have tweeted out that, I mean, so in 2022, there were 270 adventure games added to your database, and you had beaten 81 games that year. So it's just kind of impossible to catch up. 81 is a lot, but, you know, not 270.
Yeah. I mean, the games are coming out faster than I can beat them, and unless I dedicated like all of my time to beating these games, there's which I'm not going to do. There's no way that I could beat everything that's coming out just maybe in 1 year's time, and that's just the games that I know about. I mean, there's probably tons out there that I don't even know about and haven't been put into my database yet. So, yeah, it's tough.
And I know this is a question that you've gone over many times. You've got it in your FAQ, but you know, when I look at the list, you've got platformers, VR, interactive fiction, point and click. So, you know, an adventure game is pretty broad. You classify it as it has to have a narrative, puzzles, exploration, and it has to be player controlled. And I guess my big question, I'm a little confused about what player controlled means.
Well, I mean, my definition of adventure game has evolved over these last several years of doing this challenge, and I've kind of changed my mindset a few times on what qualifies as an adventure game. I try to not use my own personal bias to classify games, but one of the things that I think is important to an adventure game is that the player is responsible for controlling the narrative, either just moving around the narrative, you know, solving the puzzles, doing things like that, and actually, you know, moving the story along, as opposed to, say, an RPG game where usually you have dice rolls and things like that, skill checks, you know, things that basically is your character smart enough to solve this puzzle? Is your character smart enough to do this action or whatever? One of the games I played was Disco Elysium, which is a fantastic game. I don't know if you've played it, but
I haven't, but I'm aware of it.
It is a fantastic game, a great game, and there's nothing wrong with it. But a lot of people were classifying it as an adventure game, and I played it as a special. Actually, I didn't. I kind of said I don't think this is an adventure game, but I played it as a special because a lot of my viewers wanted to see me play it. In fact, I played it before the voice pack came out, so I was reading all the text in the game, and it has a lot of text. And I played that game, and it kind of it kind of like cemented in my mind, kind of what one thing at least that separates the adventure genre from, say, the RPG genre, and that is like player control of what is happening in the game. Which seems weird because a role-playing game, you think you're playing the role, and you are playing the role as the character. But I think in adventure games, the player is kind of in charge of most aspects of the game. I mean, obviously the story has to evolve, and the characters do make their own decisions and things like that. But usually the player is the one that is using their own mental intelligence to solve the puzzles, to move the story along.
Right.
To explore the situation and things like that.
So would that be like, for example, you solving a riddle versus, say, in Fallout, where it's like, do an intelligence check. Okay, you passed this. Like,
yeah, that's exactly the thing. The thing that I think separates stuff. Now, there are obviously some games that are hybrids and things like that. That kind of like, are on the line, and those are tough for me to classify. I've come across some of these, and I think more and more of these hybrid games are coming out that make it more difficult to classify. But I do my best, and obviously I use my own judgment. And there have been some games that I've played that have been on the list, and I said, this is not an adventure game. I was wrong. We've just said, well, it's not an adventure game, but we played it, so.
You've already said that your definition has evolved many times, but do you still use your adventure game rubric at all?
Sometimes. I mean, the thing that I think evolved the most recently is that I look for a game's identity. I try to find out what the game is trying to be, as opposed to necessarily what it is. What is the game? Who is the game trying to appeal to? Is it trying to appeal to adventure gamers, or is it trying to appeal to people who like action or RPGs or whatever? I feel like that is a very makes it a little bit easier to classify in a lot of ways, because I can look at the the text of how the marketing text and the way they do the trailers and things like that, and see who they're trying to appeal to. I would say I do use it in a way, because I do think it needs to have a story. It needs to have puzzles. It needs to have exploration. It needs to have player control. But yeah, I do use it, but I would say that it's not my primary, or I don't fully use it. It's not the only thing that I use to try and figure these things out.
Adventures in Gaming started partly as a way for you to discover adventure games that you had otherwise missed, because you love adventure games. So why do you force yourself to play fully through? Like, if you discover a game and you decide, 10 minutes in you hate it, why not just chuck it to the side? Why get to the end of them?
That's a good question. I think that I don't think that you can always judge a game by the first 10 minutes of gameplay. I mean, I can't say there's any game that I played that I was sad that I played it all the way through. Even the bad ones. Even the bad ones. I'm like, well, I'm glad I played this game and saw what, and saw it through, saw the end of the story. Sometimes if I'm not enjoying myself, I'll try and get through it the best I can. But yeah, I don't think I have ever been disappointed about finishing a game.
Possibly related, you also do an Apogee Adventure Challenge. I might be mispronouncing that, but you play and beat every single Apogee 3D Realms and Build engine game. Same kind of style. But I want to ask, how do you feel about having played Monster Bash?
Monster Bash, I did not enjoy Monster Bash, but I did get through it. And I'm proud of myself for getting through it. That game was tough for me to get through. I know there's some people who like Monster Bash a lot, but I was not a fan of some of the mechanics in the game, and it obviously was a very difficult game for me. How do I feel about it? I feel like I'm glad that the game was made, and I'm glad that I played it, but I don't think I'll ever play it again.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, you described it as kind of trolly.
Yes, it was definitely very trolly.
So why is that also a challenge you're doing? Are you're a huge adventure fan game? Do you also love 3D Realms?
It's more that's a nostalgia, definitely a nostalgia thing, where I was looking back at nostalgia and being like, it would be fun to replay these games and see how they've survived, how they play without the lens of nostalgia. And I would say in large part the nostalgia is there, but the games I don't in my opinion didn't hold up in my lens, without the lens there, for the most part.
A bit random, but I wanted to say on your stream, so we're kindred spirits in our love for The Simpsons. Definitely huge fan of, admittedly maybe it's a bit snooty, but seasons like 1 to 9. But you also, so you have a bunch of Simpsons like sayings that you can do on your stream, which I love. But you also have the Raining Tacos song, which I randomly discovered on Spotify, and I unironically love. Like, I really into that kind of music.
Yes, I do have that when we have a taco party and I give out tacos. I mean, I obviously don't use much of the song because I don't want to get in trouble, but we have a very, very big taco theme on the channel, and you haven't hit on this, but since September, I looked this up yesterday actually. Since September of 2019, I haven't picked a single game that I've played, adventure game that I played on my channel. It's been all picked by the people who are watching the channel. So I have not picked a game that I've played for a while.
Right, and that has to do with the whole discovery thing, I imagine.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I really enjoy that aspect where I'm not picking the game that I'm playing, that the people who are watching are picking the games that I'm playing, and some people like to pick the good games and watch me play good games, and some people like to pick the bad ones.
Right, I imagine there's got to be sometimes when people are like, let's make him play this.
And some people are picking like completely unknown games that we have maybe never have been streamed before, or have been streamed like once or twice ever in the past, and you can't find any videos of them on YouTube or anything like that. So there's a lot of stuff that, like, it's unknown games that they don't even know if they're going to be good or bad. So, and I find those pretty fascinating, even if they're horrible, because nobody's really played them and they're almost undiscovered. And when I find a good one, like that's like, this is a good game. Why have we not been playing this game? It's such a good game.
What are some hidden gems that you've come across?
I don't know. I have to look at my list to let you know. I get asked that a lot, but I have a hard time remembering out of the 378 games that I've played what the hidden gems are. So, I would say some unknown games that I played that were horrible. There's Darkstar. I don't know if anybody has even heard of that game, but it's an FMV puzzle game, kind of in the style of Myst, on a spaceship, and it's just it's not a good game. It's not a good game. I would not recommend playing it. In fact, it was so bad that the developer had to release a walkthrough for it. I think in order for people to get through it.
Just full of moon logic, which was a term I didn't even know until I started researching you.
Yeah, it's full of just nonsensical puzzles, moon logic, and things like that. So it was a different that was a, and it was long. That's the other thing about it, is it was a long game, so it took a while to get through. Um, that's probably on my list of games that I played that I didn't enjoy, but I got through it, and apparently it turned into after the game came out and didn't do well, they made it into an actual movie. You can just watch it as the movie. They just took all the FMV sequences from the movie and of the game and turned it like into a movie that you could watch.
Is it really just like the FMVs put together?
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know if they shot it as a movie and then kind of chopped it up to make the game, or what they did, but it's got some bad acting, and it's quite the would be quite the movie. I haven't watched the movie itself, so I don't know what how it compares to the game, but I didn't enjoy the game, so I don't think I'd enjoy the movie either.
So I don't know why, because really when I think harder about it, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But when I think adventure game, I think point and click for whatever reason. And any modern, I guess point and click game is what I'm getting at here, but anything really nail that nostalgia feel. Like today, there's obviously lots of great games, lots of great point and clicks coming out, but there's nothing, I can never regain that feeling of like Gabriel Knight, Yeah,
I would say Wadjet Games is a fantastic publisher of games. They did the Blackwell series, and we just played Unavowed, which is a fantastic game. Kind of reminiscent of like I wouldn't say it's reminiscent of Gabriel Knight, but it definitely captures the point and click feel of games. And I think more and more are coming out that really just capture that nostalgia and that point and click feel. Obviously with modern improvements that make the game less frustrating and more open to players that maybe aren't familiar with the genre, because back then I think getting soft locked in a game where you couldn't progress and had to basically restore the game and or dead ends was a thing, and dying randomly sometimes was a thing as well. I think a lot of that stuff is gone, and looking for using pixel hunting and stuff like that. A lot of those things from the days past have been fixed, I'd say, and quality of life improvements have been made to those point and click games. But all in all, they're definitely still being made, and I think they're being made more now with the independent developers and things like that than they were like 15 years ago.
The worst softlock that I can remember, it haunts me to this day. So Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, whatever. I love that game, but there's a point, I was a kid, and there's a point where you have to put these like beads into different fish statues. And I guess I did it in the wrong order and then saved, and that was it. I was like really far in the game, and it was like, well, that's it. You screwed up. And I never ended up beating it. So what's the worst soft lock that you've ever encountered?
The worst soft lock that I've ever encountered in a game? Well, I am very aware of soft locks, but so I'm very good at saving, I would say. But I would say the most infamous soft lock, which I knew about, it was probably in King's Quest V. There's two in that game, and I think that there's one where there's this is kind of a spoiler if you haven't played King's Quest V, but there's a pie that you get in the game, and if you eat the pie, you're soft locked.
Right.
So, and you use it way later in the game. So
that's pretty trolly. If you're able to eat the pie,
yes. Not only that, but you're kind of given clues. Oh, you're hungry. You should eat something. And it's worse. It's even worse than that. Is that they kind of prompt you that maybe you should eat the pie. So
that's devious.
It's pretty bad. There's a few other ones. Space Quest One has one, but it's not too bad because it's not that far in the game. The worst thing about the King's Quest V one is that pie you need way later in the game, so you have to keep that pie with you for most of the game until you need it. In Space Quest One, which is one of my favorite games of all time, you need water to do something a little bit later in the game, and they prompt you. You're getting thirsty, so. So if you drink that water, then you are more or less soft locked in the game. But it's not as bad as the King's Quest V soft lock, which is like you eat this pie and then like 3 hours later you need it.
You are also into speedrunning adventure games, and you are tied with lots of people for the world record speedrun of The Town with No Name. And I watched that video, and that is one of the funniest endings to a game I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous game. That is one where basically the goal of the speedrun is to leave town. You get into town, and then the goal is to leave it as fast as possible. And I feel like we've all gotten the best time we possibly can for that. So there's really no competition. It's only who wants to be tied for number one in The Town with No Name. So, and I also have the world record for the any percent in Space Quest 2, which is 1 second, because you can type cheat at the beginning of the game and you win. So
I don't want to spoil it for people, but they should check out your video of The Town with No Name, your speedrun, because did not expect that, and I laughed pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean the game itself is pretty hilarious. So that's a game to check out for anybody who wants to just have a hilarious romp. I guess it's just a silly game that I don't know how it even got. It's one of those games you don't know how it got made at the time.
So how do you?
I mean, there's a lot of ridiculous games out now because of indie developers and Steam and all that stuff. But back then, it's difficult to understand how games like that got made.
How do you find the time, with your challenges? How do you find the time to work on speed runs? And is there anything currently you're trying to better your time at?
I've dedicated Sunday streaming to kind of my own whatever I want to do. I call it Shenanigan Sunday. So I've carved out Sunday for speedrunning, and I have been working on Space Quest 3, lowering my time on that, and I got a PB last Sunday of around 14 minutes on that game. So
nice.
I'm getting closer to maybe getting my third place title back.
What is your most prized Lego set?
My prized Lego set? Oh, well, probably the Simpsons. There's 2 Simpsons sets that I have. I have the Quickie Mart and the Simpsons house.
Yeah, my friend does the Quickie Mart, and the Frostilicus thing is a nice Easter egg.
Yes. I mean, out of the 2, while I like the Simpsons house, I'm a little bit. I mean, I understand it, but I'm a little bit disappointed that it isn't, correct. The house is not correct because they just can't put everything in the house because it's at Lego scale. So it's a little bit disappointing that it doesn't have everything in it, like that was on the show. So the house is not set up correctly, but. The Quickie Mart is a fantastic set, and it feels like it's set up almost exactly like it is in the show, even though it changed. The Quickie Mart was set up based on what was convenient for the episode, so it wasn't always the same setup in every single episode. But I like that set a lot.
Who is better at Astro Chicken, you or friend of the show Decaf Jedi?
I don't know. I know I was challenged on that a while back, and I think I did. I think I was able to accept the challenge. I
think you did at that time do better than Decaf.
Yeah, I would say we're probably about the same. I would probably say we're probably about the same level on Astro Chicken. I think there's only a certain level you can get at Astro Chicken. You can just do them all in one go, and you can't really do any better than that.
Right.
So there's only a certain high score you can get there.
I had to laugh. Your last stream, Detroit Beyond Human, you were starting the game, and it asked you all these questions, kind of trying to figure out what kind of person you are to set you up for the game. And I loved your answer and logic behind it. Said, what would you take on a deserted island? And one of the options was cell phone. And afterwards, it tells you how many people picked cell phone, and it was something like 50-something%. And you were like, that makes no sense. What are you going to do without a charger and with no cell service?
Yeah, that was an interesting question. Although somebody in chat said, you can get a hand crank power charger for your cell phone, so maybe hand crank power charger on your cell phone, and you might be able to eventually get rescued.
I guess so, if you could hold the cell phone in the right spot.
Yeah, I mean, there are other answers like a gaming console, I think,
right,
and like a few other powered devices. I'm like, you can't use any of those things on a deserted island. So your only options are pen and paper, or I don't remember.
I think there was book and instrument as well.
A book, yeah, and an instrument, yeah. But a book, an instrument, and pen and paper seem the most reasonable. But I don't know if I'd want to read the same book over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, if you had a pen and a book, you'd have pen and paper and a book. So.
Oh, that's true. You could rewrite the book.
Yeah, you could rewrite the book, or you could write on the edges and stuff if you wanted to draw little doodles in the book. So.
You've said before, this was a while ago, but you've said this is about Twitch community and followers. You said shortcuts for getting followers will lead to short-term gains and possibly lead to a toxic community. What are some shortcuts you think streamers should avoid, and how did you grow your community?
I would say the shortcuts to avoid are follow for follow activities, where basically people follow you with no intent of actually watching your channel. It just inflates your numbers and doesn't. And honestly, your follower numbers don't mean anything to you if nobody shows up to watch your channel. I mean, the number of viewers is the most important part of that aspect. I mean, I am one who wants to have fun. That's my primary goal. My primary goal isn't necessarily to make a living off of streaming. My primary goal isn't to become famous or anything like that. My goal is to enjoy myself and have fun, and hopefully have a good community behind it as well. Obviously, if without a community, I don't have people picking games, so I kind of need my community in order to pick the games that I'm going to play. But I would say that if you lose sight of the fun, then why are you even doing it?
Right.
That's my thought on that. So keep having fun. Don't push yourself too hard. I think people sometimes push themselves a little bit too hard to do this, and try and have fun doing it.
Whatever happened to the Cone of Safety bot?
The Cone of Safety bot, that was a bot I wrote during I created during kind of the time when hate raids were in the mainstream press, I guess, as far as Twitch was concerned, where people were essentially raiding channels, spreading like horrible messages to certain marginalized streamers. So I wrote a bot to kind of a reputation-based bot that would kind of like try to, auto ban certain users, detect raids and stuff like that. I ended up shutting it down last year because I didn't have time to dedicate to it, and Twitch has done a lot of stuff to help people protect themselves now with the suspicious user things, the shield mode. And while it doesn't do everything that Cone of Safety did, Twitch has more resources and more information than I could ever hope to get on users to help protect streamers on Twitch. Like I can't get the identity, you know, the IPs of users, or you know, anything, or where they've been in the past or whatever. I can't get any of that information. Twitch is set up to do that thing, and I'm not. So it was a good run, and I know people used it, and it protected them, and I'm happy that I can help out.
You used to be Taco Salad 77. Why the rebrand to the Taco Adventure?
I thought Taco Adventure was a much better name. Taco Salad 77 was actually a handle I had on. I think it was a handle I had when I was gaming on PlayStation or something like that. So I just kind of was like, what am I gonna name myself? I'll just name myself this. I wasn't really super. You know, I was like, I'll try streaming, see how it works. I'll play some of my favorite games, see how I like it, and then I rebranded myself because I thought Taco Adventure was a much better name for my challenge, since I play adventure games, and obviously I like tacos as well.
Right, you've liked tacos for a long time.
Yes, I have liked tacos for a long time. I mean, I think most people like tacos, at least some version of tacos.
Right. Did you ever name the plush taco that you have, I guess the unofficial mascot of your channel?
I did not. The plush taco does not have a name.
All right. What about for 2021? You had the Golden Taco Adventure game bracket. You got viewers to vote on the best adventure game you played that year. I thought it was funny that the final came down to Monkey Island and Monkey Island 2.
Yes, and it's looking. We're doing a little bit different. I had people kind of vote on games that they wanted to see in it. So I don't plan on doing a complete bracket this year, but we played Monkey Island Special Edition and Monkey Island 2 Special Edition in 2022. So it's possible it'll come down to Monkey Island 1 Special Edition and Monkey Island 2 Special Edition again.
Do you think, when I first saw the bracket, I didn't realize it was what you'd played. I thought it was just like best adventure game, and I was like, that's pretty funny. Would you think that that's fair to call Monkey Island 1 or 2 like the best adventure game?
The best adventure game of all time, or the best adventure game of 2021?
I'm going all time. What would you say is all time?
I don't have nostalgia for Monkey Island. I never played LucasArts games back in the when they came out in the 90s, so I have no nostalgia for Monkey Island. My personal opinion, I like Space Quest games, and I would probably rate those in my top. I thought the humor is there, and I actually think the story is a little more interesting so than Monkey Island, of some guy named Guybrush Threepwood trying to become a pirate and just getting into ridiculous situations. Instead, we have Roger Wilco, a janitor, just kind of accidentally coming out of a janitor's closet and having to save the world without even wanting to do that thing. So, you know, that's basically the difference between the two stories, I think. So, to me, Space Quest is my top, probably on my top picks. I mean, I grew up with Sierra games, with Space Quest, King's Quest, Quest for Glory, and I love all those games. So I did play Indiana Jones: The Fate of Atlantis, and I did enjoy that game quite a bit. I think that game is pretty great, and I actually 100%ed that game. So I win all the paths, all the points, and everything like that. So I enjoyed that game. Cool.
So I guess Detroit Become Beyond Human is your current game. Do you have any idea what's coming down the pipe, or is it still being voted on?
It's still being voted on, but I mean, I can look at the various queues and see what it looks like is probably going to win. So I switch between modern and retro games. So I try and alternate so that I'm not playing one type of game. And I also have an incentive queue so that people who support the channel can kind of get their games played faster. But it looks like It looks like the next game is going to be. It looks like it might be. Well, it's going to be close. So looks like Submerged Hidden Depths might be the next game, which is an interesting game. It's a sequel to Submerged, which is a game where we're on a boat and we're trying to save our brother who is sick on like a flooded in a flooded city, which is an interesting game because on the surface it kind of looks like it's like a platformer and stuff like that, but you can't actually fall or die or struggle or anything like that. So it looks like kind of like an Assassin's Creed where you're trying to jump on buildings, go across ledges and stuff like that, be agile and all that, but you can't fall or die or anything like that. So it's not there's no stress or anything like that. It's trying to use that mechanic but tell a story. So so that looks like what might be on the horizon next.
And if people want to vote, there are various ways to do it. I'll get you to explain it.
Yes, the main way is to go to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/tacoadventure. I also have a website, tacoadventure.net, which pretty much is the place where you can find the entire list of games and information about the channel and the various queues that we use to vote for games. And you can vote there as well, as long as you log in with your Twitch account. Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
All right. Yeah, as you said, tacoadventure.net, your Taco Adventure on Twitch, and the Taco Adventure on YouTube. Taco, thank you for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.